Why don't you mind your business? Is that what it is? Oh God. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Crue Trime.
Crue Trime.
Crue Trime. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Sarah, and what I do here is tell you a terrible story to ruin your day and put on my makeup at the same time. So if that sounds like a fun combination to you, you're in the right place. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification, and then that way you'll never miss one of my terrible stories. This story is actually very recent in the news, and you've likely seen some coverage and then, wish that you hadn't, because the story is gruesome, y'all. This is the story of Taylor Schabusiness. So before I get too far into the story, a little bit of housekeeping. Yes, I'm putting makeup on as I'm telling the story, but I don't really talk about the products as I'm using them. So if you want to know what they are, look down in the description box because everything's linked. Here we go. In the early morning hours of February 23rd, 2022, Tara Pakinich woke up to the sound of her storm door slamming and a car pulling out of the driveway. For Tara, this was, pretty normal as her 25-year-old son, Shad Therian, had spent the last few days with his girlfriend, Taylor Schabusiness, in his basement bedroom. So Tara went downstairs and she saw that the light was on in the basement. She called out for Shad from the top of the stairs, but he didn't answer, so she went downstairs. She glanced around and didn't see him, so she assumed that he had probably just left with Taylor, and she was gonna turn off the light and go back upstairs when she saw a green plastic bucket with a beach towel draped over the top. She lifted the towel, and inside the bucket, staring back at her, was her son's severed head. I should have warned you to hold on to your butts. Holding? Okay, here we go. Before the events that would change everyone who was involved, Shad was a happy kid, born on September 9th, 1997 in Green Bay, Wisconsin, to Tara Pakinich and Michael Therian. Shad had 3 siblings, 2 sisters, Ava Wheelock and Sylvia Sunray Therian, and 1 brother named Bo Smith. So Shad came from a large family with grandparents, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, all of that. Shad was described as a talented artist who loved making wood carvings. He enjoyed camping, playing games, and most of all, spending time with family. After he graduated from Bayport High School, he worked with his father and grandfather at their family's business. So at the time of this event, the now 24-year-old Shad and 25-year-old Taylor had met back in middle school and had been friends for years. Taylor Denise Coronado was born on November 23rd, 1997 in Chicago, Illinois. Taylor lived with her parents in Chicago until they relocated later to Green Bay, Wisconsin. At that time, she was young, like 4th grade, and then, she would later eventually meet and become friends with Shad. Not the nicest gal, had sort of like a hard time. When she was a sophomore in high school, she got expelled for fighting. From there, Taylor moved to Texas for a bit to live with her grandparents and finish school. In 2009, Taylor very sadly lost her mother, Marla. She was only 51 years old, and she suffered from complications from chronic alcoholism, cirrhosis of the liver, So Taylor also had, some struggles with mental illness. She started receiving therapy and mental health treatment when she was as young as 7th grade age due to her inability to concentrate and the behavioral problems that she was having at school. She was given medications to treat the symptoms of ADHD, and later she would be put on mood stabilizers, antidepressants, antipsychotics by the time she was 18. But Taylor didn't like taking this medicine, so after she turned 18, she decided to stop it altogether. And that led to hospitalizations following a couple of suicide attempts in the spring of 2016. So she was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD resulting from her mother's sudden death. And this is on top of some ADHD and severe depression. So Taylor was definitely severely troubled. There's not a ton of background about her upbringing, like the family home life, but if her mother was suffering from alcoholism, probably not great. In 2020, Taylor started racking up criminal charges. In one incident, she was arrested for assaulting a police officer. She was also charged with resisting arrest. In that particular incident, it says that she was found to be behaving oddly, seemingly under the influence of something, and she was randomly knocking on doors in the neighborhood. And when the police arrived, they observed Taylor in the middle of the street, and they asked her what she was doing, and she replied, quote,
"I'm not sure. I'm on a different planet right now."
I mean, understatement. She readily told law enforcement that she had just shot up and then showed them the track marks on her arms. Big time drug user, by the way. Big time. So when the police tried to stop her from walking into oncoming traffic, she started kicking and punching at the police. So 2020 was actually a really bad year for Taylor. She was being a major shithead. She was getting in all kinds of trouble, fleeing from arrest, which is a felony, bail jumping, felony, possessing drug paraphernalia, misdemeanor, and resisting arrest, also a misdemeanor. So she was put on probation and was made to wear a GPS monitoring device on her ankle. So our friend Taylor was actually in a pretty serious relationship, and in 2020 on Valentine's Day, she got married in a prison visitation room. So romantic. She married a man named Warren Chabot, but her name, Schabusiness. Taylor had already changed her last name to Schabusiness in 2018. I think it's a play on Warren's last name, Chabot, Schabusiness. On Warren's Facebook, he goes by the last name Schabusiness as well, so that must have been a really good joke, I guess. It's a joke, right? Like it's funny? Schabusiness. It's such a strange name. It's not real. It's made up. Warren and Taylor were, how do I put this nicely? Garbage people. Warren had a very long criminal history that included armed robbery, theft, lots of drugs, especially methamphetamines. They were way into drugs. So a prison marriage and drug abuse, what's the next logical step for this couple? Have a baby, of course. Taylor gave birth to a baby boy that she named Mateo in 2021, but due to Warren's incarceration, we don't really know if he's the father, although he is listed as such on the birth certificate. So both of their Facebook pages aren't terribly long, but you can really get the gist, of where they are or were in that relationship. You can also see that it was very important to both of them, loyalty. Warren, by the way, had Taylor's name tattooed on his neck. I mean, you can't get more loyal than that. Yes, I will be loyal to you. She did seem to be like a proud mom, posting pictures of her little baby and her man. The point is, things seemed to be good for a while. Well, at some point, it seems like Taylor started to go a little stir crazy, She cut off her ankle monitor, and that's bad. Okay, that's a violation of probation. So, despite being married to this man with her name tattooed on his neck, she kind of entered into a friends with benefits situation with Shad. Shad was also very troubled and deep into drug abuse, and the two of them really enjoyed doing meth together, among other things. Now, Shad's Facebook post seemed to show how he felt about Taylor, although he never really named names, and he certainly didn't tag her, probably because he didn't want her prison husband to see. And what I mean is, it was just very up and down. So Shad was last seen alive on February 21st, 2022. He was leaving his mother's home with Taylor in her van. Okay, so first, Shad and Taylor went to Taylor's apartment and did a bunch of drugs, and then they returned to Shad's mother's home, and they went to Shad's bedroom in the basement and continued their bender. Tara, Shad's mother, mentioned that in the late hours of Monday or early hours of Tuesday, she saw the both of them, going downstairs to the basement, and she heard, their voices Taylor and Shad, in their Friends with Benefits arrangement, very much enjoyed some creative bedroom activities. They commonly utilized restraints, handcuffs, chains. Specifically, during this encounter, they were using like a choke chain dog collar. Taylor and Shad were both using meth and marijuana, but they were also shooting up trazodone. So trazodone is a prescription medication that's used typically to treat major depressive disorders and sometimes insomnia. It's generally, quite safe, but obviously it can be misused and addiction can occur. People rarely overdose on it, but one of the side effects of trazodone is priapism, or persistent boners. We can all assume that Taylor and Shad were taking advantage of this side effect. Okay, so back to Tara's gruesome and unimaginable discovery.
What's in the box?
So she rushed upstairs to wake her boyfriend, Steve Hendricks, who then called the police.
Girlfriend just woke me up and swears that she found her severed head of her son in the basement.
Tara actually thought for a moment that what she had found in that bucket was fake. It's like this was some kind of terrible prank. Well, when the officers from the Green Bay Police Department arrived, they confirmed that, in fact, the human head in the bucket was real, and it happened to match a photograph of Tara's son, Shad. They also, in their initial inspection of the downstairs basement area, some dried blood on a nearby mattress, so they called for backup. So simultaneously, there's a response to Tara's home to check out this horrible scene in the basement. But also, police immediately went to Taylor Schabusiness's apartment because Tara relayed to them that, that was the last person that she saw with her son. So they went to her apartment and secured a search warrant for this van. And while law enforcement approached the van, Taylor came out from her apartment and was covered in blood. Now, I have seen the body cam footage. She's wearing dark clothes and it's kind of difficult to sort of see, I guess maybe if you're in person, covered in blood, but you get what I'm saying. Doesn't matter. So the police began speaking with her and told her what was found at Tara's home. As the police questioned her, she admitted straight up that she killed Shad. She also said that the officers would have fun finding all of his body parts.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I mean, it's too much. It's too much. She was telling them this as law enforcement was, looking in her van, and they located a crock pot box containing one of Shad's legs. Taylor was arrested, detained anyways. She was taken down to the police station to begin their formal interrogation. She was upfront about everything. She didn't try to hide one detail. Anyways, she told them that the choke collar and the chains were a normal part of their sexual encounters, and that on the evening in question, Shad had actually put the choke collar and chain onto himself. She said that she could not resist the urge to continue pulling on the chain to see what would happen. We're about to get into it. Okay, so they were on a bed of some kind in the basement bedroom, and Shad was laying on his stomach and Taylor was on top somehow. So he had this choke dog collar on and she was pulling the chain like as hard as she possibly could. She said that she just wanted to see what would happen. She didn't mean to kill him, but she did enjoy choking him, and she enjoyed watching him as he coughed up blood, his tongue came out, and he died.
So when did you realize that Shad was not alive anymore?
His face turned purple.
She also admitted that she was sexually gratified by this action.
Did you figure he was dead then?
Yeah.
And what did you do?
Played with him.
It's too much. It's too much. So after Shad died, Taylor claims that she blacked out and then went crazy. You still holding those butts? With Shad now deceased on the bed, Taylor played with his body with sex toys and other things for hours. She claims that she put a dildo in his anus and in his mouth. She performed fellatio on his dead body. And you might ask, how? If he is deceased, is it, it's not funny. It's not funny. Remember the trazodone? Persistent boners. So yes, she's doing this to his deceased body, and then she cut it off before putting it in the same bucket where she would eventually place his severed head. And I mean, like, she cut the entire wedding tackle, the whole set, twig and berries. She had pulled his body to the edge of the bed, cut his head off, drained his body of blood into the bucket, and then carried the bucket into the shower to dump. When law enforcement asked what she had used to dismember this body, she said, knives from the house, from the kitchen. She commented that she very much liked the bread knife because it was serrated and it worked better to cut through the bone and tissue. When the case got to trial, there was testimony from one of the officers about the condition of this knife. It was so worn down that the spiky parts of the serrated knife were like worn, dulled. When officers told Taylor that Tara, Shad's mother, had found his head, she said incredulously,
I can't believe I forgot the head.
When Taylor was asked why she removed and concealed some body parts but not others, she said that she was, quote, tired and became lazy. She had intended to, put all of the body parts in her van, but she stopped after moving a leg and a foot because, she was tired. By the way, this was like a finished basement. So in the search of the basement, they found many other body parts in bags. They were like plastic shopping bags that contained the knives and body parts. Inside a storage tote was torso, and around the neck, those marks matched, the head. Also inside that tote were, lots of organs and internal things. There was a ton of blood and blood staining, like previously cleaned up blood on the floor near the bed and then near the front of the shower. There was also obviously drug paraphernalia, pipes and powders, and all of that tracks with all of the things that Taylor relayed to the police. So Taylor was charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault, in addition to 2 felony counts of probation violations. The judge set Taylor's bond at $2 million at her preliminary hearing, in which she appeared virtually from the Brown County Jail. So there were many forensic psychologists who found Taylor Schabusiness mentally competent to stand trial, but there was one independent psychologist who determined that she was not competent after she became non-verbal during their session and then out of nowhere threw a chair. Okay, so clearly Taylor has some issues with impulse control and addiction and probably some mental illness, but that's not a free pass to go on killing and dismembering someone. So Taylor's crimes were actually put on full display last week during her criminal trial. Did you guys watch that circus? Wild. Anyways, so she was trying to avoid responsibility by claiming essentially insanity. That's what we'll call it. Not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. During the testimony about finding Shad's severed head in the bucket, she was snickering, like, tee. That kind of behavior didn't win her any fans from the general public, let alone the jury. Taylor showed absolutely no remorse during that trial. From the start, from the police interrogation. Also, in a preliminary hearing before this trial actually started, Taylor attacked her attorney in court. Apparently, he suggested to the judge that they delay the trial from March to May, and she lost it. Like, look at this shit show. Quinn Jolly resigned as her attorney after that, and obviously the jury didn't know about this, but you get it. Taylor gave no shits. Did she have a history of struggling with mental illness? Possibly. But in all of the examinations and tests and all of that, yes, it indicates that she's troubled, but like, Not enough. I should have taken better notes about like the legalese language, but part of determining whether or not somebody's mentally competent, they take into consideration things like, can you hold a job? Can you exist in society and comport your behavior with, you know, laws and polite society? And she could do that. Also, this came up during the trial, when they checked her search history, she was looking up, you know, things that would indicate maybe a little bit of research, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer, dismembering bodies, like, and this was right, like, before this action took place. On Friday, July 28th, 2023, yeah, like a week ago, after hours of gruesome and emotionally exhausting testimony and exhibits, the jury deliberated for less than an hour and they returned a verdict: guilty on all counts. Okay, so because Taylor Schabusiness entered a plea of not guilty by reason of mental illness or defect, the jury also had a second round of deliberations to do, and this was to determine whether or not they agreed with that. So yes, they did find her guilty, but they needed to decide if she was criminally responsible. So, after some additional testimony during that phase, including from her father, Arturo Coronado, who testified wearing a prison jumpsuit, by the way, he blamed Taylor's troubled life on her shitbird husband, Warren. He said that Warren was, quote,
just a fucking loser and he got my daughter involved in that shit.
Why was Arturo in a prison jumpsuit, you ask? Because, you know, he sexually assaulted a 16-year-old child. So, you know, great character witness.
I love you too. Go Bears.
Go Bears, you piece of shit. Okay, so in the second round of deliberations, the jury unanimously rejected Taylor's insanity plea.
Yeah, immediately no. Immediately no. Immediately no.
They weren't buying her bullshit. Taylor's trial will be moving to the next phase, sentencing, and that is scheduled for September 2023. So I'll just have to make an update in like a pinned comment down below. So Taylor Schabusiness is facing a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Wisconsin is not a death penalty state. Taylor Schabusiness grinned while the details of her gruesome, heinous crime were put on display for all the world to see. She was exceptionally cruel in her actions, and she showed herself to be a cold-blooded snake. Definitely somebody who would reoffend if given the chance. If I had to place a bet today, in this moment, I'd guess that she will be sitting in prison for the rest of her natural-born life.
Your tone seems very pointed right now.
And that is the story of Taylor Schabusiness. Again, if you're interested to know any of the makeup that I used in today's look, just check down in the description box. Everything is linked. If you have a Crue Trime story that you would like to recommend to me, just also look down in the description box. There's a link to a Google Doc where you can go and give me all of the gory details. Thank you so much for hanging out today and for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this one, then consider subscribing to this channel before you leave today. I upload new videos here on YouTube most weeks, and you can follow me on most of the other socials as well. That is it for now. I will catch you next time in the next video. Bye! I'm running out of story and I still need to put on my mascara and stuff. Schabusiness. Go Bears. What is happening? What is happening? She admitted. It's not funny. Come back. Schabusiness! Ah, get it together. Oh, fuck, I gotta turn the evil overhead light off. Murray. Murray, please stop. Murray. Murray, please stop.